what's up? It's Greg from Fisherman's Headquarters, and today is Monday, May 15th. I'm here taking a stroll on the Long Beach Island surf. It's about 9:30 in the morning. Here to share an updated fish report with y'all. Show you kind of what's going on the local fishing front in the Long Beach Island area. If you've been paying attention to a little of the reports I've been posting, we've had a good influx of quality striped bass, I'd say since the full moon. It's been a solid week, maybe week and a half of good quality fishing with the bigger size fish. We've actually had one of the best spring runs we've had in a long time. Hopefully you've been getting it out and enjoying the awesome fishing. Actually awesome weather as well. We've had a pretty good stretch of weather here, and that weather continues today and this entire week coming up. Right now, as I'm taking a stroll on the beach, we've got a pretty low tide. I think low tide's at 11 o'clock today. I think high tide's gonna be coming in basically all, say, midday, afternoon. And I think high is about 5 o'clock. As far as the local fish report goes, quality striped bass fishing here on the beaches of LBI, anglers catching fish on clam and also bunker. Chunking bait really has been pretty good this entire spring season so far. Month of April and May have been very good to the surf anglers of Long Beach Island. Been hearing reports from North End, Mid Island, and also South End. More recently here, some good quality fish have been hitting the beaches with the current regulations. All those fish are being released. Heard of a lot of overs, but there are some slots around if you're looking to take home a nice fish for the table. As far as some good quality fish that I can report, Todd Luber was fishing just this weekend. Had a really big fish and a couple of them. I mentioned a few times the name Danny Frederico and his brother, I think it's Anthony. They've been getting some good quality fishing in the South End really all spring long. He sent me another photo yesterday of a really beautiful fish. Said his brother had one just a few minutes after that. There's been a number of other reports that I can share that have been coming into the shop. Throw up a couple photos. Really appreciate all the anglers that are sharing their information, all the anglers that are shopping at Fisherman's Headquarters, getting geared up for the fun fishing that we've been having. There are some fish in the inlet. Inlet's definitely offering some really good fun fishing for anglers, both in the boat and also land-based. There's some good fluke fishing up there. There's some bluefish up there, and also some striped bass. If you're looking to get on the fluke game, for the most part, the bay side has been a little on the slower side for this point in the season. There was some good reports coming in earlier part. Definitely some anglers kind of complaining it's a little on the slower side as well too. So kind of depending on where you're at, kind of what your techniques are, kind of what you're getting into, it seems to be a little more on the inconsistent side from what I can share. There are some fish being caught on the beach. That's a little on the slower side. You're not going to go up there and just start banging a bunch of fluke off the surf, especially where I'm at here, say Mid-Island, but maybe closer to the inlets, North End, South End, maybe have a little better shot at that. As you do see as I take a stroll here, you see there's pretty big sandbars and some big bowls. I'm actually looking at a pretty big pocket of water coming up here ahead. You'll see that in a second once that's behind me as I stroll down the beach here. Like I mentioned, it's low tide. This is a great time to be fishing. Great time to be looking out on the surf front to read the water to see where you might want to fish later in the day. I'm not sure who that was, but got a little truck passing by, giving me a little high five. Speaking of trucks passing by, if you are a four-wheel beach angler fishing the beaches of Long Beach Island, the beaches are closing here soon to four-wheel drive permitted vehicles. With that said, I don't know the exact dates and the exact towns, but I'm just kind of giving you the fair warning. Be on high alert that I think a lot of towns are closing down this week. I think, I'm not even going to go into it because I'll probably be wrong. There's too many towns and too many differences, which has really been confusing. Something I've tried to talk to all the mayors about over the years of trying to get one permit for the whole beach, trying to get one, say, open and close date for the whole beach of LBI, but it's been kind of falling on deaf ears. But for me, it just makes sense, and I think for anybody coming out of the area, it just makes sense too. But for some reason, it doesn't make sense to the towns. But we'll leave it at that. Diving back into the fish report, there are some blowfish around. I think I mentioned that in an earlier report. Heard some more this past weekend. Just heard the first report from the bay side of a local kingfish, northern kingfish. So they'll hopefully be showing up here. The surf, I'm not exactly sure exactly where it's at. I'm going to take a ballpark and say low 50s, 50, 52. There's no way it's any more than that, say any more than say 54. Definitely not in the mid 50s. I was out on Saturday, got some good quality fishing, and I actually was out in the ocean for a little bit. I actually had 48 to 52 degree water temperature. I believe there's a little bit of an upwelling took place How it took place without a stiff south wind, I'm not really sure. But I feel we had a little bit of upwelling, some sort of cool off, because there were some really cold pockets of water that I experienced, and I guess I can say I monitored on my boat with the, I have two sonars, 2 temperature gauges, and I calibrate them every year. Not sure if everybody knows that, but you can calibrate your units to get a more precise thing. All you need is a thermometer, put that in the water, get that temperature, go into your settings, and you can adjust the plus or minus. One thing here while I'm slapping my leg, there are some gnats around. The bug kind of season is kind of started up. Check out No Gnats and also check out Captain Ron's. Those are 2 great products we sell at Fisherman's Headquarters. Season in, season out, super, super popular. We actually sell like almost a half a pallet to the local beach patrol. It's what they kind of love. It's what they demand. It's what keeps bugs off them. So it's probably what you should choose too to keep bugs off yourself as well. Right now, like I mentioned, when the winds are lighter, there's lots of gnats around. Some days, worse than others, but be prepared, and this way you have a better enjoyment of your time on the beach or in the bay or wherever you may be fishing. I did mention a little blowfish, kingfish, fluke in the bay. Plenty of bluefish around. So we had a better showing of bluefish this year than say previous years. There's been some smaller ones, some medium sized, and some gators mixed in. Bayside, Barnegat Bay has been pretty good. We've heard some mid-island, still a good amount of striped bass in the bay as well. Heard some really good reports of some schoolie striped bass rolling in the main thoroughfares, on the side banks, mid-island, around the bridges. I'm sure you can find some fish. Still some weakfish here, but I really think the icing on the cake really goes to striped bass. Striped bass fishing's been, kind of churning really, really strong here for many weeks. It's got to be 6 weeks or more. It's been going strong. It's kind of grinding all cylinders right now. Got a good body of fish here right now. Probably some of the biggest fish we'll see all season. Hopefully that continues on. It's no telling how short or how long the season will go from here, but things have been consistent. Things warmed up really early this year. It's kind of stayed in that prime kind of water temperature. Hasn't spiked up too warm. Obviously hasn't gotten too cold either, so it's been kind of that super stable weather pattern we had, water pattern. And I haven't had too many big storms. It's been somewhat tranquil, little swell here, little swell there. It's kind of what it looks like it's going to happen this week too. Things are kind of high pressure and charged, some little frontal systems coming through, but no major storms that kind of stir up the pot. One thing I can share, a little bit of a theme I've kind of noticed this season, and I think this might be why we have such awesome fishing taking place here on the beaches of Long Beach Island. There's not a lot of bunker around. Anybody who's stopped in the shop, just about every single day we're struggling to provide fresh bunker to all the surf anglers that are looking to get out and do some chunking. The reason we're struggling to get bunker is because we buy it from fishermen, commercial guys, whether they're cast netters or gill netters, that go out and catch it. Just like we're trying to catch striped bass, fluke, bluefish, and what have you. They're out every day trying to catch bunker. Some days it's easy. Some days they're all potted up, stacked up. Some days they're not. This season, there has been somewhat of a lack of bunker in the local area and also elsewhere in the state. There are some areas that are chock full of bunker. They're all potted up and tight, but that's not everywhere. Just going to kind of hold off 1 second as this beach rake goes by. I don't know how much or how little sound you can get from me, but there's a little beach rake over there cleaning up the beach. Thanks to the borough municipalities kind of keep the beaches clean for us. But back to the bait situation and bunker. When there's bunker pods stacked up, and more so in that, I'll say 30, 50 foot range off the beach, a lot of times the striped bass that are migrating up the coast will kind of make a pit stop and stage up on that bait, and they'll feed on that bait. Some mornings that could be boats and anglers and boats maybe casting poppers on those pods, maybe live lining bunker, whether they're cast netting or snagging, rehooking, because snagging and dropping is illegal. Maybe getting onto the troll and covering some ground, fishing some mojos and some bunker spoons and picking fish, which there are some anglers picking fish, but few and far between. I can share just a few days ago, Cole Cronin reported got a big fish. I think it was in the high 40s, possibly 50 pounds on the troll and mojo just outside Barnegat Light, out of Barnegat Inlet. So for anybody looking for a boat report, I can say there's anglers throwing up some fish. There are some bait pods around. It's not stacked up like it was in previous years or has been. Maybe it will come together here in the next couple days, next couple weeks. We'll see. But going back to what I was kind of pointing at with this awesome spring fishery that we've had on the beaches of LBI for striped bass, with that lack of bunker, a lot of those fish that are moving up the coast are not staging up and hanging out on that bait that's off of the beach, offshore. Whether that's 30 foot of water, 50 foot of water, or even say a mile or two offshore or more. These fish seem to me that they're coming up the beaches, and without that abundance of bait, they're getting into the suds and they're doing work. What I mean by that is they're getting into the surf, they're getting into the cuts, they're getting into the bowls, into the troughs, and they're cruising, they're hunting. They're putting time in these bowls, in these little pockets of water. And when they're putting time in there, and you too are putting time in there, the two kind of interact. Hopefully they come across your bait, your lure, and you get the bite. The amount of reports I'm hearing this season of anglers catching multiple fish day in and day out, and the same anglers catching fish day in and day out, the consistency is bar none. We've had an awesome spring season this year. Hopefully you've been part of it. Hopefully you got in the action. But I will say that I think we got a lot to go still ahead. I think there's more left in the tank. My birthday is normally right around here. Well, my birthday's always in late May 21st. And I always, year in, year out, I always use my birthday as a gauge of where we're at in the season. Normally for me, that's when things really hit the peak. This year is many weeks earlier. Early May, there was some really good quality fishing taking place. Obviously, even before May, in April, quality fishing taking place. We had quality fishing in March. But yeah, as I use that birth date over the years to kind of gauge where we're at in the fishing season, this season for sure is early, but I still feel like there's a lot of fishing left in the tank. June is a great time to be fishing beaches of Long Beach Island as well. That being said, there's fish here now. The fish are in the suds, they're working the bowls, they're working the troughs, they're eating sand fleas, they're eating the crabs, they're eating the critters that are up in that wash. So if you are gonna fish, don't always think you have to cast out to England. You don't have to cast across the entire ocean to get into some good fishing. Sometimes there's little pockets and troughs. You want to focus on those areas. If you're not familiar with what a pocket or a trough or a bowl is, as I'm strolling here, I'm going to kind of spin around, or maybe I'll just walk through it, and you'll see there's a big seawall, and that's normally what happens when the ocean comes up and chews. Hey, buddy. Got a little friend showing up here. Hey, dude. Hey, what's up? Nobody ever comes over. The little dog just decided to come say hello. So basically what happens, you have the seawall, right? Things get kind of chewed out from the wind and swell. And then what happens is that sand gets pushed out, right? And what I'll kind of show you is when that sand gets chewed off the beach, it's going to lay out, and then that makes what's the sandbar out offshore. How's it going? Good morning.
All good.
So what I'll show you here is basically this bowl, big bowl of water here. I'll kind of spin around. Hopefully this doesn't get you too sick spinning you. But you see the seawall. See seawater here? That's basically erosion from some swell, some wind, some wave. And then what happens is it lays out, right? So we kind of got a little sandbar off to the side over here, sandbar over there, and I'll spin around a little more over this side and over here. And that little finger that comes off is really this sand that got chewed out of here and sucked out and down the beach. That's why you have a big open sandbar there. That big open sandbar, when I say open, it's because it's exposed. There, that sand came from here, from this chewed out bowl. And what did it leave? Left a nice hole of water right in front of me. Right now, it's probably, I'm gonna take a ballpark guess and say 2, 3, maybe 4 feet in sections. But there's a little cut there that kind of gives an entryway. When I say cut, spin this around. There's a little entryway for fish to kind of come in and out of this bowl of water. And at high tide, as you see, I'll go up here. I'm probably, I don't know, whatever I am, maybe 20 feet away from that seawall. It's over my head if I go back that way. So well over my head. So as this tide comes up here, 5 o'clock tonight, probably anywhere from noon to 5, that whole incoming tide, that bowl of water that has in front of me here, say 2 to 3 feet, maybe 4 feet in spots, as that tide comes up, there might all of a sudden be 8, 10 feet of water there. That cut is going to be that much more open and pronounced for those fish to come through. Fish are going to be kind of in here chewing. Right now, I don't have shells. I don't have any sort of debris, any sand flea, remnants here. But 100% there are sand fleas around. That's what these fish are eating. Don't be shy to try out fishing sand fleas off the surf. Yes, clam's been an awesome bait this spring season. Bunker's also great. But if you can't get the freshest bait that you want, try fishing sand fleas. We have live sand fleas in stock. It is by far probably one of the most underrated baits along the beachfront for anglers fishing bait. Yes, you can fish lures in these pockets. That's kind of the way I would personally approach different things, I like walking, casting, sort of a 5 and drive, fishing a few minutes, whether it's 5 minutes, 5 casts, switching up a couple lures and moving on. There's nothing wrong with passing up a spot and coming back, but getting around it, I'm a firm believer that if I'm putting in a half hour and if I don't get a bite, there's nothing happening there, or maybe the fish are staged up somewhere else. With that being said, yes, you can stage up in a spot, stake out, and hope that the fish come by with the tide or fish come by with the current later in the day or as the day progresses. Yes, fish swim. So my whole thing is I like to get out, fish the cuts, hit them quick, move to the next one, hit them, and kind of bounce around real fast. That's just my approach. Maybe you have your own. Anglers that are fishing bait, sorry, you can't do that. I will show a little bit of the beach here further up. I'll kind of spin around again. Hopefully that little bit of a spin and twist around there helped you out. Trying to do a little bit of beach reading, but as you see as I get up here, very, very stretched out, sloped beach. There's hardly any seawall up ahead of me, just a little bit of a lump. You see a little bit of an increase, and a very, very flat beach profile. But what do you know? Once again, just up a little bit ahead, you've got a couple big holes, big seawalls, and what do you know? Big bowls of water. These areas here where I'm walking have had fish and people have been fishing for a number of weeks and catching quality striped bass in these waters. There's no one staked up here right now, which is kind of shocking to me, but there's some beautiful water. I would strongly suggest fishing, or at least taking a peek in some of the Mid-Island beaches. Take a stroll, take a drive, maybe pop up, scope out a couple spots from the dunes before you stake out and spend the whole day. I think sometimes scouting a spot is almost as important as putting the time into actually fishing. What I'm getting after is if you spend 5-6 hours fishing, maybe it's only 1 hour fishing, and you're in the bad spot, it's just kind of a waste of time. And there's really no terrible spot. I mean, as long as you're fishing, you got a line wet, you can't catch fish if your line's not wet. But it's very, very important to kind of focus on the better structure, focus on the better spots. And that could be with whatever you're fishing for. It could be fluke, could be striped bass, could be surf fishing, could be boat fishing, could be freshwater fishing, which I know really nothing about. But you really want to focus on the structure. You really want to focus on the areas that will give you the most probability, the best chance of catching fish. And in order to do that, you kind of have to know the lay of the land. The lay of the land is only kind of learned from either spending a lot of time scouting around or somebody telling you, hey, there's a cut here, there's a cut there. But cuts change. So just because somebody caught a fish, let's just say at 20th Street or 15th Street or 1st Street or 100th Street, whatever the street may be, doesn't mean that fish is going to be there tomorrow. Doesn't mean that spot and that sandbar and that cut and that bowl are going to be there tomorrow. So that's kind of where scouting comes into play. Getting around, looking and watching and trying to learn how to read the water comes into play and really is most valuable to you. So hopefully that brings some information your way. Hopefully you catch more fish with the info that I shared. I will say that this Mid-Island stretch of beach here where I live, town of Brant Beach, Pahila Park, I guess town in between there, well, there's a few other towns in here between basically Ship Bottom and Beach Haven. There's some beautiful water. I would strongly suggest taking a peek and looking around in this area. Yes, there's been good reports in the south end, some awesome reports from the south end. I think south end, in terms of this year compared to others, has probably been one of the hot spots this entire spring run. I've been hearing lots of great reports from the south end. I'm kind of already 18 minutes in, 19 minutes in, but I'll dive into that a little bit and maybe allude to why. A lot of times the inlets have a much different, say, environment or situation than the Mid-Island areas. Long Beach Island is 18 miles long, call it 20 miles. You've got Barney Inlet, which is a rocky area. It is, lined with 2 jetties. Obviously, Island Beach is on one side, LBI is on the other side. You got some structure up there, you got a lot of bay water, but really bottles in tight there, and a lot of stuff goes through a small area. On the south end, what you have is kind of a unique situation where it's more of a natural inlet, no jetties, but one of the most important parts of the south end is you've got the Mullica River that floods out, or I should say flows out, sorry. The influence from the Mullica River is very, very important to the south end of LBI. You've got a lot of bait influence and you've got a lot of different fishery migration influence. Striped bass move up the rivers in the springtime. Well, obviously they leave the rivers too. Some stay, some go. When those fish are moving out of the rivers, moving out of the bays, and they're coming around Holgate at the point, right now Holgate's closed, so you can't fish Holgate, they come up the beaches. How close they are to the surf line, how far offshore is up to the debate. That changes day in, day out, changes season in, season out, like I was mentioning before with the bait and such. But as those fish come up the beach, if they like that beach, they like that structure along the surf side, and they come in tight, the south end really gets them first. If those fish like what they're seeing, they like kind of the habitat, they like that there's bait there, they're gonna stage up and stay. So what I'm kind of saying is that fish that are coming out of the bay, coming out of the rivers in this local area in Long Beach Island, they're coming out the inlet. If they like what they see, they might stay in Beach Haven, they might stay on the south end of LBI, and they might never leave. The reports that are coming from down there are very, very good. There's no sense of sitting X, Y, and Z waiting for them to come. If you're getting good reports from the south end, go fish the south side. I can share there was some really good reports for weeks. There was some good reports off Mid-Island. North end's been good too. So I don't really want to say one spot is, you have to go there, but for sure, I don't think south end gets enough credit sometimes for how good the fishing can be. I don't want to kind of do any spot burns, but I can share some local fishing reports that I mentioned before, whether it's in this report or previous reports, of some anglers that were catching fish in the south end. Danny Frederico, I mentioned him a couple times. I mentioned him in this report and also previous reports. He lives in the south end. He's been getting some awesome fishing down there. Mentioned Chris Messino on one of the reports. He's been having some awesome fishing. He lives down in the south end. Those are just two anglers that are putting a lot of time in catching a lot of fish on the beach. You should hopefully join up with their kind of theme and get in the action and have some fun. If you want to get geared up, stop by Fisherman's Headquarters. We're located in Long Beach Island, right after the first traffic light on the right-hand side. We're open 7 days a week, all season long. We do rod and reel repair, re-spool your line on the spot. You're looking for any kind of, say, real parts. Maybe you're looking for some rod components, anything like that. Do your little DIY. Maybe you're looking for some thread or some hair. Maybe you're tying your own bucktails for the fluke season, making your own teasers for the fluke season now, or maybe the fall coming up right around the corner. Before you know it, summer will be here and be over, and fall will be here. Time flies, we're having fun, but we've got all those essentials for tying flies, tying teasers, tying your own bucktails. You got a whole selection of hooks if you're looking to tie up some rigs. Got some leaders in stock. We stock a lot of good quality products, top quality products from a lot of different manufacturers. Do our best to keep it all in stock. If there's something you're looking for that you can't find at the shop, I'm sure we can get it really, really fast for you. I appreciate all those that are shopping local, supporting small business. Also stoked to hear all the local reports from everybody catching fish here in the local waters of Long Beach Island. Thanks for sharing. And be sure to subscribe and stay tuned. Subscribe to our YouTube page, but also follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Check us out, fishermansheadquarters.com, and also the Fishing Report blog, fishinglbi.com. I'm Captain Greg Kubnick. Have a great day.